Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Ooh, listen to that beacon calling to the spirits out there, calling to the creatures of the dark, the night. Welcome back, guys, to Scary Stories to Tell from the Res, the paranormal podcast that talks about all the scary stories that happen in and around the Res. I want to welcome everybody back. If you're a new listener, welcome. Pull up a log. Come sit down next to us, next to the fire, while we tell all the scary stories that all of our elders, I'm pretty sure everybody's elders, told us not to tell, especially after dark. I want to say thank you to everybody that's waited. You guys have been so patient, and I hear you guys. I missed you guys. I really have. And I am so excited because I've got some new interviews, new stories, been traveling. So without too much suspense, I want to get into it. I just want to jump into the first story. And I really am excited to bring you guys some new stories. So let's go. Our first story starts off from a friend named Dean, who is on the Uinta-Ori Reservation. They write in, "So when I first started my job, it was back in December of 2021. I had to stay late for transporting patients, and it's usually really late. But it was on New Year's Eve. My patients called me and said they didn't need me to drive them, so I left early. It was like around 4, around sunset. I remember going down that long road from Fort Duchesne to Vernal, and I see these lights in the distance. It was just bright lights. From the distance, I don't know how far it could have been, but they were off to the side, but more towards the east. They were lit up like for a couple of minutes, and I was going to take a picture, but I didn't want to because it was rush hour and I was iffy about highway patrol in the area. But these lights, they disappeared, then they reappeared 3 different times. Every time they went away, I didn't think they'd come back, but they were still there. It was in the same spot, so I know it couldn't have been a plane or helicopter, especially with lights that bright from a distance. I didn't see anything else besides the lights. I don't know what to think of it because it was my first time seeing something like that here since I moved." Wow. So that's something that I really want to touch. I want to get everybody, because everybody talks about orbs, especially growing up here on the Uinta-Ori Reservation here in eastern Utah. I hear a lot of orb stories. I'll even tell one of mine. I remember I was driving around with my cousins, and we were driving in the mountains, and they would follow orbs. They said that they were like, I don't even know how to explain it. They were just these lights. It was sort of explained to me a little bit that these are like spirits, kind of like, they look kind of like the orbs that you see in Brave. Like that's, I'm pretty sure that's probably not the right representation of what they were, but man, we chased them. We would chase them all around the mountainside. I just never really thought about how they would appear in the east. It's been a really long time, but if you've got some orb stories, guys, I really want to hear them. I want to hear as many of those orb stories, lights in the sky. Reminds me of my first paranormal story that I told on the show about the lights that split into 2, then 3, and these were right above me, which was really scary because I wasn't sure what I was looking at. I just remember looking and thinking, huh. And like always, you try to grab your phone, they go away, or the grainy footage, it's out there. The government's out there. But yeah, no, if you guys have got stories. The second one actually comes again from Dean. It says, "The second time, like it was before, the fall, but of last year. I don't know what to think of this one either. I was on my way to pick up an early morning patient. I was going down that little hill from the tribal office, and I was going slow. I just happened to look up, and I thought what looked like the moon was pretty big and kind of dim. I didn't think about it till a second later. I noticed that the moon shouldn't be toward the east. I looked to the east and to the west, and the moon was starting to go down. And I was looking at where I see this real faint light. There was no clouds out, and the sun wasn't even breaking dawn. But it was fairly faint, crescent-like shape. The more I stared, the more I could see an outline. It looked like a circle. Then at the bottom of the crescent light, it looked like there was a little snake-like thing moving. I don't know, but the shapes were slightly darker than the sky. I was going to take a picture, but because I was driving, I figured I'd wait to get to the blue store to take a picture. It took me a good minute because I didn't think it would be that long. By the time I got to the blue store, the light had already gone. I was trying to look everywhere in the sky, but I couldn't see any lights that I'd seen before. Again, the lights in the sky. That has been a phenomenon that has been talked about so much, especially out here in Skinwalker Ranch area. The lights in the sky. And I'm pretty sure that you guys out there on the res have seen some kind of paranormal activity. It's UFOs, man. I'm telling you. The last one also comes from Dean, sorry. The last time I seen lights, I don't know, they're all weird, so I don't know what to think of them. It was a couple months ago before the snow, but I was coming to work, and I always drive the main road by the Bottle Hollow, which is a lake on the UN Ori Reservation, as you drive through Fort Duchesne. But anyways, I was coming around out of those curves where you can see the southeast side of the lake, but you couldn't see the corner just yet. But I don't know where it was. I want to say it was the edge of the lake or at the bottom of the road. This light. It was like a long bar, like a volume bar. It was just dry. I was just driving, and I wasn't even close to the turn to the offices yet. I think it was by the turn to Fish and Wildlife or whatever that building is. But then that light turned off when I got closer. The way that light turned off, it was like a volume bar. When you turn the volume up, it went dark from the left to right. It was maybe long enough for 3 cars, from like the bumper to bumper. I don't know what to think of it still. Some mornings, I thought of going the other way around through Hilltop area. I think if I would have that night, I probably would have seen it closer. I don't know. It's all been weird seeing these lights, but I'm always looking to. So again, that matches up with all the paranormal stories that have been coming in. I remember a few years ago, I did a commercial for this Skinwalker Ranch out here for Native Voltage Res Radio, and that was one of the stories. That was something that they were advertising. They wanted to hear everyone's stories of lights in the sky here in the Uinta Basin. So, if you have any stories as far as the lights in the sky or anything like that, man, I want to hear them. I know I've got mine. I think I've told most of mine. So, but those are our written in stories. I got a chance and opportunity to sit down with a childhood friend of mine, and I want to jump into that because he's got some really, really cool stories. And these are some stories that are both from him and from our shared uncle. As I mentioned, the Native Voltage Res Radio was a radio station that was created by my uncle Lloyd Areve, who is unfortunately since passed as of recording this. So I'd also like to take a minute to say thank you to Lloyd, my uncle Lloyd, or as he's known on the airwaves, DJ LA, for giving me my start in broadcasting and helping me out. And I'd actually like to dedicate today's show in his memory. I'm actually sitting here at the fire with a little merchandise of his. I miss him dearly, but his stories, his spirit will live on, and I hope that we continue to do so and keep him going in our hearts. But let's get into that, man. Let's hear some stories from the mouths of those who knew him. That's a traditional thing, guys. You guys know that's how we keep our history, and we're going to keep him going. We're going to keep the stories going after we take a quick break, and right after the break, we're going to jump right into it. So don't go nowhere. If you got to, go shake a leg, go stretch, go splash some water on your face, because we'll be sitting here at the fire waiting for you, man. We'll be waiting, like I said. But just do me a favor. If you see any lights, please don't follow them, because I need you here. I need you sitting here next to me, because I'm a little scared now. all these lights around. We'll be right back, guys.
This is Justin Levitt, a.k.a. Justin St. Native, coming at you from Scary Stories to Tell from the Res, reminding y'all to keep it paranormal.
Well, first off, my name's Isaac Reed. I also go by the DJ name Wolfflo. The story I'm going to tell is really my Uncle Lloyd's story. The first one started in Toyoak. He was down there with a couple of his buddies with a tape recorder, and they snuck into the gym down there, and overnight I guess they left a tape recorder down there and it picked up something. Suddenly one of his buddies stole his tape recorder and the tape with it, and there was something on there that he just wouldn't get over, and he was listening to it over and over until it drove him Nupigit, which means crazy in Ute. Lloyd said, and one night they had a peyote meeting for him, and Lloyd's stepdad heard about it, and once he heard about it, he got mad at Lloyd and told him, you don't mess around with those things, you don't do that. Didn't even bother to listen to the tape because he didn't want that affecting him, because back then they believed that bad energy, bad medicine, they believed that's what they picked up that night. So he just threw his tape recorder and that tape in the fire, and they finished the peyote meeting. The sad part is his friend never got back to normal after that. He's still what they call Nupigit. It's unfortunate, but the second story in the Uinta and Ouray reservation, it happened around the back roads of the White Rocks. It's in La Pointe. Lloyd and his buddy, who I'm gonna let remain anonymous, they saw two hitchhikers, two ladies on the side of the road at night. The saying usually goes, you don't pick up hitchhikers. They didn't seem harmless, they just sounded like they were lost or something. And Lloyd decided to pick them up, and he's like, hey, well, let's go party with these chicks. So he did, and everything was normal and everything was good. What's crazy was the other guy sat in the back seat with them, and I guess he was making out with one of them, crazy. Suddenly they were going up towards White Rocks, and they had to take a pee. So Lloyd and his buddy went outside, walked a couple yards away from their vehicle to pee, because they didn't want to be rude and pee in front of the ladies, complete strangers, And when they got back from peeing, the two ladies were gone. He said another crazy thing about that was both of them had their hair covering their faces, so he couldn't really get a good look at them. But that worried him, so he drove up and down the road looking for them, and him and his buddies couldn't find them. A couple days later, they found out that two white women were murdered on La Pointe Road, and they believe that they were partying with them, and ever since then, they kind of stopped doing that.
God, that sounds insane. That sounds like it's almost one of those, like, that's a story that you hear a lot when it comes to doing these kind of stories. Like, you run into a lot of ghost stories, ghost car stories, and it's really crazy. Do you how about you? Do you have any personal stories that you feel like you can share?
I'd say the first couple I have would be growing up in the Richardson subdivision. We live by the Uinta River, and some nights when it's spring or summertime and it's late at night, we'll hear what sounds like water babies crying. And a lot of people don't really talk about that, and it's pretty understandable because it's sort of bad medicine.
I don't want to interrupt you. I know that you're in mid-story, but I gotta talk about this. One of the stories that I've been chasing these kind of stories down for a very long time, but I have to know, and my listeners are probably who don't know, that are in the outside world, but the Uinta and Ouray Reservation, the Utes, the northern Utes, the Utes across the board, they have what's called water babies. Do you yourself know anything about the history on those?
Way back in the 1800s, there was a Ute woman who had her baby by the river. And what happened was a water baby came and ate her baby. And the water baby took the place of her baby. And the water baby attacked her when she noticed that her baby was crying or missing. And that's another thing too about water babies, is they mimic the cry of babies so good, it's eerie.
So have you had any interaction with water babies?
No, thank goodness, but I'd say the closest I ever got to, I'd say, a water baby interaction would be one night I was staying at home by myself. I started hearing a baby cry.
I was going to say, staying home as you do, like on the res, you know, mom and dad, your parents, whatever, they go out and they have their own fun. So, yeah, no, that's frequent thing that happens a lot?
Yeah, like, parents went to Wendover, and at this time I thought I was old enough to watch the house by myself. I thought I was cool. I was only 13, 14.
That's Wendover, Nevada. For everybody, for those that are listening.
But what happened that night was, once I heard the baby crying, I tried turning up the TV just to listen to the TV and drain out the crying noise. Nope, what happened next was the water baby, I hear crying, and next thing you know, I hear pounding on the side of the window, just doo, 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 doo. And after that, I just went to my kitchen, turned on the cedar pan, burned some cedar, think good thoughts, and after that the crying went away. And yeah, freaky.
I'm getting chills just talking about it. We're gonna come back to you, man. Like, you and I grew up together, like, so we have stories to tell, like, but I know that you have some stories that I know my listeners definitely are interested in hearing, especially about the Northern Ute Reservation against where we grew up. And I know that you have some Bigfoot stories, so next time we check in with you, that's going to be something that I want to hear about.
Most definitely.
Reintroduce yourself.
Isaac Reed, but my DJ name is Wolf Flow. That is Wolf is Flow spelled backwards.
I'm going to call you Wolfie. You're going to be Wolfie from this day forward.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Wolfie, man. We'll check in with you next time.
Thank you. See ya.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Scary Stories to Tell from the Res. Again, a big thank you to Isaac Reed, a.k.a. Wolfie, from this day forward. He will forever be known as Wolfie. Thank you guys again to everybody who has sent in their stories. You guys have been just so amazing with all your support, all the love, and everything that you guys have done. And again, just a reminder, guys, if you guys want to send in some stories, feel free. scaryrezstories@gmail.com. I'm always checking. I've got quite a bit, but I figured I'd just give you guys a little bit of a taste of what's to come this season. I guess it's a new season. Oh man, I love you guys and I missed you guys so much. Again, big shout out, and making this a tribute show to my Uncle Lloyd Arive, Native Voltage Res Radio, in my opinion, forever and always. And man, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave you guys. I like being here, sitting down next to the fire with you guys. It's been so fun. It is always a ride. But as always, we've got to put out the fire. Leave it how you found it. Is that the saying? I believe it's the saying, but I could be completely wrong. Smokey the Bear says only you can prevent forest fires. But what about that talking bear thing? That's a scary thing in and of its own, especially the costume. Alrighty, guys. Well, I love you guys again. Check it out on YouTube, Facebook, scaryrezstories@gmail.com. Send them in, guys. Let's keep this going. Let's keep this brand alive. And till next time, guys, stay safe, stay blessed, but most importantly, stay scary. Scary Stories to Tell Tell from the Res is a LoneBear media production, with all editing and graphics done by me, Jaye LoneBear. Music provided by Pond 5 Media.